It's that time again. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 15 of 27 Outs, your favorite baseball podcast. I'm Stephen Martinez once again. Your boy's riding solo. I'm in the driver's seat. We doing the damn thing. So tonight's episode is going to be very interesting, but very different, guys. And we usually do multiple topics, but tonight is the first deep dive where we're going to talk about one particular team. We're going to break down how they got here, why they're here, and what does it look like moving forward. So come on in. Let's get settled in like a family. And I can't wait to get started. And, so people say, what is this topic going to be about? Well, if you've been following the Instagram stories on the 27 ounce page, my personal page, you already know this episode is a very important episode. And here's why. 27 ounce is something that me and Ivan started as a labor of love. And these are the reasons why. We went to school for journalism to become journalists to do shows like this. So, all right. This past week, Pablo Lopez, the Mets caught him. He is a reliever. He was with the team for about a month. He had an implosion in a 10-3 loss, as you see right here. And he was one of the pitchers that pitched in the ninth inning, and the lead went from, I believe it was 5-3 to 9-3 in a matter of minutes with him on the mound. And he just imploded. He had one of those games where you just look at it and you're like, damn, this is going to be one of those long nights, and you just hope he can get through it. Now, that's not the controversy. The controversy is what happened once he got off the mound. So he's arguing with the third base umpire, Ramon De Jesus. They're literally having an argument. You literally see them yelling at each other as he's walking off the mound because he got ejected from the game. So he gets ejected. The third base umpire, is having a screaming match with him. So Jorge Lopez instinctually just throws his glove in the seats. I'm like, I've never seen that on a baseball field before. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And not his secondary glove. This is his glove that he pitches in games with. And I'm like, this is incredible, right? So they asked him, do you regret your decision? No. Do you regret what you did? No. Do you feel like you're on the worst team? And he said, I feel like I'm the worst effing teammate. I feel like I'm on the worst team. I feel like this is something that, is on me essentially. Because he clearly states I'm the worst teammate. He says this, right? So the Mets, in their haste to be Metsy and do the wrong thing, they cut this young brother. They cut him. They cut him loose. They tell him, hey, you're no longer needed here. They designate him for assignment, right? But let me give you guys some backstory. He's dealing with the son who has mental issues. He has not mental issues. He has he deals with rage and anger, and he has all those different issues, but he's also dealing with kidney problems. Now, mind you, his son is only 8 years old. So when I tell you this guy's gone through a whirlwind, and from everything that I've read in the past about him, currently about him, this is not him. His personality is not to lash out at anyone or be angry with anyone or take it out on anyone when he's having a bad day. He usually comes to the field all smiles, happy to be in the big leagues because he knows what a privilege it is. But I guess in that moment, with what he was dealing with, he felt like, you know what, I have to express this. I feel like the worst teammate. I feel like I let the team down. And then when they asked him to double down, they asked him, do you regret it? And he once again said, no. Did you say you were on the worst team in MLB? And he said, yes. But let me just explain to you guys. English is not Jorge Lopez's his first language. English is not his first language. And so he got caught up in the moment trying to explain himself or trying to say what he meant rather than what everybody else interpreted it as, right? The reason why this is important for contextual reasons is we are so quick to judge someone before we even know what's going on with them, whether it be family issues, whether it be issues that we have no control over. The Mets just railroaded this brother. They really railroaded him. And the reason why I wanted to do this particular show on this particular night, that particular instance involving Jorge Lopez is a microcosm of what has been wrong with the Mets since their existence. Somebody please explain to me how there was not an interpreter there in his corner to help interpret what he was feeling at that time. You know he's going through it. You know he just met with by the way, he just had met with the manager, right? It's like you just I don't understand why there wasn't anybody there? Why wasn't there someone to tell him, yo, it's all right, we got you. Let's put you with an interpreter so we can interpret exactly what you mean. You see it every other time the Mets have a Spanish ball player. There's an interpreter there with the player. There's somebody there to help the player get their words out. You got to understand, these guys, a lot of these guys, they don't feel comfortable speaking English. They don't, for this particular reason, because they don't want their words to be misinterpreted or to be told, well, you really meant this, but you said that. How do you know what he meant? Are you in his heart? Are you in his mind? Can you read his mind? And once again, the Mets PR department are worried about what it looks like rather than what it is. And tonight, on this particular show, we're going to get to what it really is. Because there ain't no PR firm helping me get through this. There ain't nobody telling us we can't talk about it. So let's talk about it. Because, you know, this stems from, from the very beginning. From the very beginning, the New York Mets have been the redheaded stepchild since their inception in 1962. They were brought here so that there was a National League team in New York to supplant, to help the ease of the Dodgers and Giants leaving. They were the fill-in. They were the redheaded stepchild. They were the one that we have to love them because the Dodgers and Giants left. So we love the National League, so we're going to root for the Mets. Right? And I think at the time, we all thought, you know, that's probably admirable. You probably want to add, you know, another team to give the Yankees competition, but you also want to give the National League fans who lost the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants a chance to have the Mets as a replacement. Hence why you look at the Mets colors. You look at the Mets colors, and it's a combination of Dodger blue, Dodger colors, and Giant orange. And that's how this inception was born, right? So from the very beginning, they struggled with an identity crisis. Who are we? What are we? Why are we here? And what do we mean? I'm going to rephrase that. I'm going to say that again. I'm not rephrasing it. Why are we here and what do we mean? What significance can we hold for this town, for these fans who are looking for a team to latch onto? How can we be different? And they were different in all the wrong ways. Because instead of embracing your individuality, you leaned into, hey, we want to be like the Dodgers. We want to give you a nostalgic feel. We want every time you walk through Shea Stadium's doors, you feel like you're watching the Dodgers and the Giants instead of watching the New York Mets. The New York Mets, to use a wrestling term for those that don't understand, they are a gimmick. They are a gimmick, right? And the sad part is you watch them and all these campaigns and the LFGM with the Pete Alonso, which I can't stand because You're adding an incendiary word that you don't want kids to repeat, but yet you're going to the media after games yelling LFGM when we all know what the F stands for. I don't understand why people just choose to ignore what this organization's problem is. The problem with this organization is that they don't want to give you the truth. You know why they don't want to give you the truth? Because here's what the truth is coded in: deceit, lying, straight up debauchery, straight up disgustingness. Whether you go from, listen, you can even talk about the 69 Mets. Cleon Jones was a womanizer. Cleon Jones was not the cleanest of guys on the team, right? But we all praise these dudes. Him, Tommy Agee, Tug McGraw. Like, we all praise these dudes, but these dudes had inner demons of their own that they didn't deal with. And this was in the 60s. And then what we did in 73, Willie Mays says, I'm going to go play for the Mets because I'm a former Giant and I'm going to come home and I'm going to embrace the fan base. Do you know how sad it was watching Willie Mays play on video, knowing he was a shell of himself, and that's what you subjected these fans to? That's what you subjected us to, is a broken down Willie Mays? And then in the 80s, when you look at them, you realize, yo, they got a hell of a team. Doc Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling, Bobby Ojeda, Lenny Dykstra, Kevin Mitchell, Gary Carter. They had a team. And you sit back and you look now and you go, how the hell did we win one World Series? How is this possible? How is this possible that with this particular talent, we won one championship? But you know why? Because it was always never just about baseball. It was always about something extracurricular. Oh, the amazing Mets. Come watch the amazing Mets. Like, everything with them is, yo, let's hype up this one player who could be bigger than the brand. Doc Gooden, bigger than the brand. His curveball was called Uncle Charlie. You know, they gave these guys nicknames. The Doctor was his name. When he would take the mound, and they would say the doctor's in office. Right? And I'm just like, we're talking about a gimmick. We're not talking about a baseball team. We're talking about off the field. There's more legendary stories of them sniffing coke than there is them playing baseball. When you watch the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary and you realize, yo, these guys were straight up drug addicts, B. Straight up cocaine, the vitamins that now we know are methamphetamine. That was in the clubhouse. That was in the dugout. They were taking methamphetamine during the 1986 season. The pills that they called the groove pills. Those are methamphetamine pills, people. So we remember them fondly for winning a World Series, yes. But if you really think about it, everything with this franchise is happenstance. Nothing ever happens the way it's supposed to, right? Like, you look at them and you go, how did you get here? If it wasn't for a damn near 40-year-old Bill Buckner playing first base, the Mets don't win that World Series, right? If it wasn't for like a miracle flukish, the ball gets through his legs, they don't win the World Series, right? And as talented as they are, right? A lot of people look at the 88 team and say that 88 team, they should have won a World Series. They won 100 games. They were killing everybody. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you realize, like, yo, what the hell? What are we doing? Like, how do you have that 88 team and not win a World Series? How do you waste Doc? Doc went in 85. Doc went 25-4 with an ERA in the ones. He was unbelievable. How do you waste this? He was nuts. Can somebody pull up that Doc Gooden's like official record for me that year? I know he won over 20 games. Unbelievable, bro. And we wasted this guy's prime. And then you realize like, yo, how do we have Darryl Strawberry at the peak of his powers, perhaps the greatest power hitter in the history of the game, bro? And you only win one World Series? And this guy's writing ghost letters of how he longs to be a Los Angeles Dodgers because New York wasn't for him? Why? And then we wonder why they go through these stretches of being non-existent, right? They go through these stretches of not being relevant. You know why? Because everything that's unimportant is important to them. They don't value the important things, right? The moment you knew that Doc and Darryl had a drug and alcohol problem, it wasn't sweep this under the rug because this is these guys' lives now in the 80s. It's not like now where you could hop on social media and see what somebody's doing. But you just realize like, yo, damn. You let these two-star pillars disintegrate before your very eyes and you do nothing to help these brothers? Nothing? You do nothing to help them. And this is what we have to subject ourselves to. This is what we're remembered fondly for, right? And I still remember the home run that Mike Scioscia hit. I remember the home run because I'm sitting there going, yo, God almighty, man. Are you telling me that this is how it's going to end for this Met team? And it did because they never got back there again. Here's the unfortunate circumstance of all this. History repeats itself with this franchise. History repeats itself, right? Because Darryl said yesterday when they retired his jersey, yo, leaving the Mets was the worst thing I ever did. Doc wanted to come back 4 separate times, guys. He wanted to put on a Met jersey 4 separate times, and they told him, no, you aren't good enough. So you know what he did? He went to the crosstown rival Yankees and won 2 World Series. You know what Doc did? Doc went to the crosstown rival Yankees and won 3 World Series. All because the Mets told them no. And you know what's really crazy? Is that you have the nerve of people now to tell you, oh, Pete Alonso's the best Met to ever live. Excuse me? We're going to act like Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden, Mike Piazza, and friggin' David Wright never put on Met colors? Is this what we're doing now? We're being so prisoner of the moment that the history of this franchise, that the fans are supposed to hold dear, they don't hold dear anymore? It doesn't matter to them? Why? Why did it all go away? Right? Why at the end of the 99 season was Steve Phillips about to fire Bobby Valentine because Bobby Valentine wouldn't take his suggestions for a lineup in 99? Why was he about to be fired again in 2000 because they got off to a slow start and Fred Wilpon was literally about to jump out of his shoes to fire Bobby Valentine? You know why? Because this team doesn't practice patience. They don't practice self-restraint. And it shows. It shows. Bobby Valentine was the best manager since Davey Johnson at that point. And you were still going to fire him? Because you felt like you were justified in doing so? And all because of public perception. All because you didn't like the dude. Right? Let's fast forward. 2003, Art Howe comes in. Art Howe, manager of the Oakland A's, had some good A's teams. Eric Chavez. Me and Ivan went over this a couple weeks ago. Do you know what they said when they talked about Art Howe? He lit up a room. You know what? If you want to be honest, Art Howe's as dull as that door behind me. Art Howe didn't have the personality, the gravitas, or the Stones to manage in New York. But you fired Bobby Valentine because he told you the truth. Is this what we're going to do now? Is this how we're going to react now? Is this how we're going to go about things now? We're going to fire people when they tell us the truth, right? Here's the other thing. I'm going to just come flat out and straight say it. The next part of the show is going to be where we get really interesting. You know what I mean? We're really gonna talk about this because this is the crux of my argument, along with some other things. Willie Randolph. Willie Randolph's career record with the New York Mets is 302 and 253, 555 winning percentage. They finished at 83 and 79 in 2005. They won 97 games in 2006. They went 97. They went 90 and 72 in 2007, and they were 34 and 35 when he was fired in 2008. If you do the math, that comes out to 302 and 253. Why is that important? Willie Randolph is the first Met manager since Bobby Valentine and Davey Johnson in the 80s to have a Met team in which they were over 500 for 3 consistent seasons. 3 consistent seasons. That is crazy. 3 consistent seasons. And you fire him at 3:15 in the morning after you took 3 out of 4 from, at the time, one of the best teams in baseball. Because the Angels weren't always this bad, folks. Those Angel teams in the mid-2000s, those were some good teams. And they walked in there and they beat the living daylights out of those dudes for 3 out of 4 games. And then I was looking back on some revisionist history getting ready for the show. You know, we give Omar Minaya credit for putting together that team. But at the end of it, you look at Omar Minaya really differently the way he handled the Willie Randolph situation. Because how do you leave somebody out to dry that way? You make them fly 3,000 miles away from home. After a win, you fire him after a win? Are you kidding me? This is what we choose to do? This is how we choose to comport ourselves? Are you kidding me? And then you wonder why this team doesn't deserve success. They don't deserve success. You don't do someone like this. And then they bring in Jerry Manuel. Jerry Manuel comes in. He's this smooth, slick-talking baseball dude that's been around for many years. Do you know in 2009 they lost 92 games with the same basic roster and couldn't get out of their own way if you gave them a compass and a roadmap and said go this way? They still got lost. They still don't know what the hell they would do. So when I look at it from that standpoint, I'm like, yo, these are the people that you chose to keep, right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, yo, if I'm Willie Randolph, I never want to be associated with this garbage organization all over again. Because remember I told you history repeats itself, right? They did the same thing to Tom Seaver when Tom Seaver wanted to come back. They did the same thing to Doc Gooden when Doc Gooden wanted to come back. You know what I'm saying? They basically shunned their nose up at the former Mets wanting to come home because you felt like you were above it all. And then, you know, you go, right? 2010 comes, the Jerry Manuel's last year. Terry takes over a rebuilding team. And within 4 years, Terry Collins has that team in the World Series. Terry Collins deserves a lot more credit than he receives from Met fans. Terry Collins was the type of baseball man that you want in your room, guys. That's who you want in your room. Because I don't think any other manager could have handled the Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, Jacob deGrom, Steven Matz foursome the way that this dude did. The way he did was sensational. He deserved better than what he got. And you know why the Mets were in this position that they were in at the end of all this? Because you started giving people nicknames before they did a damn thing. You see how history's starting to repeat itself? The Straw Man, the Doctor, all this. The Dark Knight, Matt Harvey, big Batman fan, the Dark Knight. Thor for Noah Syndergaard. The two guys with gimmick nicknames flamed out faster than the dude that we all thought was going to be a number 3 starter on a good team, and Jacob deGrom. And look at where his career is now. Everything with this team says, I don't want to take winning seriously. I just don't want to be buttoned up like a team across town. I don't want to be the corporate entity that everybody looks at. Hey, bring the family, bring the kids, meet the Mets. It says it in the song. Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wives, guaranteed to have the time of your life. Bring your kiddies, bring your wives. Guaranteed to have the time of your life. So the Mets made it a family atmosphere where the Yankees have been called anything from the evil empire to IBM, because all they do is win, and they do it buttoned up, and they do it the right way. Right? But how can I take you seriously when you have guys like Noah Syndergaard refusing to get into an MRI tube? Refusing to tell you, nah, I'm good. I can't lift my arm up before I start. But I'll be ready. I'll be out there. How do you have Matt Harvey missing a World Series workout because he was supposedly sick after he spent the night before watching Monday Night Football at a steakhouse with all his boys from Connecticut? And Terry Collins didn't throw anybody under the bus. He said, we'll handle it internally like a good organization does. Right? So they handle it internally. We get to the point where like, oh, it's working, right? They're going to figure it out. He starts game 3. He pitches well in game 3. I remember because he didn't want to come out of the game. He's fighting Terry in the 9th inning. I don't want to come out, Terry. Leave me in there. Please, let's do this, man. Terry gives him a shot. He gives him 2 runs. The Mets lose 2-1. That was the game and pretty much the series. Right? If you look at Matt Harvey, the subsequent seasons, because here's the important part of context. He missed all of 2014 with Tommy John surgery. The doctors gave the Mets strict adherence. Stay to this innings limit if you want him to be available for the postseason, and they didn't do it. Now, granted, he ended up getting hurt. It ended up not working out anyway. But let me tell you something right now. You have the inmates running the asylum at every possible turn. At no point in this franchise's history has a leader ever stepped up and said, yo, I'm going to be the guy that shapes this. And you know why I'm not going to let people give me David Wright as the example? You know why? You know why David Wright is not the example I even want to hear about? Because David Wright couldn't get on the field when it was time to lead. You can only lead from the bench for so long until your words become hollow. You got to get out there on the field and play. And he was unable to do that through no fault of his own other than his body just didn't want him to. And even with David Wright, you still had Syndergaard dictating terms, Harvey dictating terms, telling you what they're going to do and not do. You know what I'm saying? And then we get past that. We get past that era. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, It does. Because you go from at least having some optimism to now you got nothing. Aaron Judge is killing it with the Yankees. The Yankees are in the series. You know what I mean? The Yankees are in the series. Or close to the series, excuse me, in 2017 and 19. And it's like, we're just watching them fall apart at the seams. Kirk Neuenheist is up for the Mets. Jordani Valdespin is playing for the Mets. Dominic Smith is playing for the Mets. And I really hearing people, I hear people say, well, they have to start from the bottom. They have to do this the right way. So what do? You go to CAA. You go pluck Brody Van Wagenen from CAA, and you tell Brody, yo, you got connections with free agents. We're gonna see if you could build a team. Blah 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 blah. Brody comes in because Sandy Alderson's physically couldn't do it anymore. That's the other thing. When your general manager does not have the pulse of his own organization, stuff is getting missed. How do you expect players to be developed when you don't know who to talk to when it's time for the development to take the next step or to take shape? Nobody knew who to talk to because it just, I don't understand that. I don't understand how this continually was a thing. If you knew Sandy couldn't physically do it, why didn't you have somebody young ready at the stable? You know why? Because we went for the name that's good in front of the cameras, because everything this organization does is for straight up optics. It's optics. This is all this is. We brought in Brody because if we sucked, at least you got somebody that can smile in front of the cameras. Well, we're trying, guys. We're trying to get better. Bear with us. Here, take my smile. You know what I mean? Let me smile for you in the camera. Let me be that guy. But when it came down to it, you know what you're remembered for, Brody Van Wagenen? Two very distinctly different things. You're remembered for possibly the dumbest trade in Mets history if it wasn't for Edwin Diaz being unbelievable before he got hurt. Like, Edwin Diaz's first year with the Mets was rough. It was rough. We didn't know if he was going to make it to free agency. We thought they were going to have to move him because he couldn't take it. And then Robinson Cano, your boy, who you said, Robbie, come to New York. It could be special. He clearly has nothing left. So what does he do? He gets popped for using steroids. 80-game suspension. There it goes. Right? So mind you, this is during the time when the Wilpons are trying to transition to sell the team to Steve Cohen. Because I believe Cano had $48 million left, and at 2 years left at $48 million on his deal. Why is this important? I'll tell you why it's important. Because when you don't have leadership at the highest levels, a trade like that happens. Why are we eating a contract? Why are we eating the $24 million? Why are we being responsible for this? When Seattle turned around and said, yo, I'm gonna do what I do. Because I know these players know me. This is how we build relationships, and I'm gonna build relationships with these particular players. Here's the problem when you build relationships when a player can't play. The last person to know that they are no longer a star is the star player. I'm gonna repeat that. The last person to know that they're no longer the star is the star player. So Brody leaves because Cohen buys a team for $2.4 billion after being rebuffed by MLB. Because the sale fell apart. MLB didn't like something in Cohen's financials, and then they agreed, and then it all looked good, and everything was on the up and up. After that happens, Brody Van Wagenen is relieved of his duties. Steve Cohen comes in. He takes over the franchise. And during his initial press conference, this is what he says. This is what he says. In his initial press conference, we want to be the East Coast version of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He also stated that he wanted to win a World Series in the next 3 to 5 years. So right off the bat, you're starting off wrong. Because, Steve, how about, since we're starting a new course, how about you be the first version of the New York Mets? How about that? How about that? How about we stop wanting to be the Dodgers and we start wanting to be the Mets? What are you doing? You know why, Steve? You know why this happens? Because the Mets aren't your sole priority. The Mets aren't your sole purpose. The Mets aren't your sole reason for being and making money. You know why? Because you got a hedge fund in .72. And I truly believe this. Looking back on this now, and I'm going to jump forward a bit, but we're going to go back. I believe he bought the Mets to try and get a casino built because I ultimately believe he's going to end up selling the team. Once that casino is built, they're going to end up selling the team. And here's the other thing. What does it mean to be a New York Met? What does it mean to say, yo, I play for the New York Mets? You know who you really play for? You play for the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Brooklyn Giants, and the New York Yankees because you wore pinstripes in honor of them. You wore pinstripes in honor of your arch nemesis. And I'm supposed to take you seriously as you're trying to chart a new course? But anyway, back to Steve Cohen, because I'm having fun. How you guys do? Steve Cohen, his first order of business, I got money, I'm going to spend it. And he said this. He said, we're going to bring a GM in here, but a GM is not on my list of priorities to start with. It's something that I feel like we can get around to eventually, but it doesn't feel like a top priority right now. He said this during his introductory press conference. He said those words came out of his mouth. And so I'm sitting there going, all right, so you don't believe you need a GM, right? You don't believe that, right? So what he does is he sees Francisco Lindor, shiny new object. Cleveland has to deal him. Cleveland's under constraints because they can't pay him. So what does he do? Not only does he trade Jimenez, the shortstop, Rosario, another infield prospect. Not only does he get rid of the developmental players that the Mets are trying to develop, he brings in Lindor, who's a year away from free agency, and he doubles down and says, yo, here's a 10-year deal for $341 million before he even played a game for you in New York to see if he could handle it. You doubled down and gave him the money anyway because you could. Rather than taking a step back and saying, you know what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. So instead of me paying you buku money, outrageous money, instead of me doing the things that I would do because I'm a businessman, I'm impulsive, I buy things, I'm an inside trader. Once I get something, I'm trying to acquire it for long periods of time. He treats the Mets as a part of his firm, as a part of .72. And he doesn't see it as a separate entity, which is a problem. And that Lindor contract let me know that. Because it's no normal person says, yo, let me give you 340 off the rip before I even see you play a game here. What? How do you know he can handle it? How do you know he can take it? How do you know he wants this? You think that quote he said a couple weeks ago, I missed the winning here in Cleveland? Because he was winning and there was nobody on his back. It felt good to just be him. And he didn't have to worry about anything else. Right? So how do you expect me to take you seriously when all you do is it's a sideshow, right? You go, you meet with Lindor, you get him signed. He has dinner at your house. You do the same thing with Kodai Senga. You get him signed. You meet with David Robinson, who's representing himself. You get him signed. You sign Starlin Marte. You get him signed because you had dinner. You met him. You had a relationship. Blah 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 blah. Right? And I'm sitting there and I'm going, yo, this dude doesn't understand what it takes. It's not about who got the biggest smile and who can impress you when you're sitting across the table from you and your wife at a dinner. It's about who can perform on the field when the lights are the brightest. And what I look at this Met team and I say to myself is, how do you even know what you're doing when you don't even want a chance to? And here's the other thing he said. I don't want anybody else learning on my dime. You know how ignorant of a statement that is, especially when you have no prerequisite knowledge on how any of this works? You don't want anyone learning on your dime because you feel like you know it all and you got all the answers. To quote Kanye West, you ain't got all the answers, Sway. You ain't got all the answers, Steve. You bring in Max Scherzer. You bring in Justin Verlander. You bring in mercenaries. Here's the other thing. Everything with the Mets feels like a mercenary was brought in to do a job. They were brought in to do a job. They were not brought in to be a part of a culture. They were just brought in to be trained assassins to kill. But a killer needs to be fostered. A killer needs to be shown, yo, this is the way we do things at this level. This is the way we do things in New York. They never took the time to do any of that. They never took the time to realize, can Max Scherzer even pitch anymore? Is Justin Verlander's heart even in this? Or we're just going to sign them because they're a name and it sounds good on paper? Now, granted, you got Acuna, you got Jet Williams, you got some of these prospects and some of these deals, so you made out okay. But you know what you're paying in luxury tax for 3 top prospects? $101 million for players that will never play for your organization again. That's the dead money sitting on the Mets books right now. Right? So he brings in Jared Porter. Jared Porter, who was the general manager, he brings him in, and there's a story that comes out that Jared Porter is sending lewd pictures and lewd messages and half-naked pictures to a female writer when he was with the Cubs in 2016, and nobody vetted him. No one vetted him. No one said, yo, make sure this guy's track record is good. Before we hire him, make sure his track record is good. Nobody hired him. Nobody thought about that. Carlos Beltran. Yo, dog. Carlos Beltran. He was at the epicenter of perhaps the biggest cheating scandal in baseball that we've seen in a long time. Nobody thought to vet it. Carlos Beltran. Nobody thought to call around the game and go, yo, make sure this is on the up and up. Because here's the thing. The general public doesn't hear about things until months in advance, months after it's all found out in the game. Nobody sat there with the Mets and said, yo, let's interview this dude. Let's vet him. Jared Porter. Let's vet him. Let's vet the guy who's supposed to be leading our franchise. Are you kidding me? How am I supposed to take you seriously when you don't do a simple job as vetting somebody for the position? And then Mickey Callaway comes in. Mickey Callaway's trying to talk to every chick, reporters, sending them lewd pictures, sending irreputable, horrible text messages, stalking women, getting their phone numbers from the PR department or their itinerary from the hotels where they're staying. When you're supposed to manage a team and you don't even know how a batting order works because you sent one guy up there in wrong succession of a batting order because you were too busy thinking about Yami. You weren't thinking about baseball. You were thinking about Yami. Are you kidding me? These are the people that we bring in here to run this organization. And then Cohen, oh, it's going to change. But Cohen, it's going to change. Here we go again with the monikers and the gimmicks. King Cohen, King Cohen, King Cohen, King Cohen, King Cohen, King Cohen. King of what? King of what? What is he a king of? Let me just be honest with you, right? So King Cohen makes one brilliant decision. He brings in Buck Showalter. I'm wrapping up here in a few minutes. Bear with me. Thank you guys for staying as much as long as you have. So he brings in Buck Showalter. This feels like the hire that's going to change everything, right? Everybody's playing well. They're looking like the best team in baseball for the first 4.5, 5 months of the season. They're on their way to 100 wins. They got the division basically sewn up. All you got to do is run through the red tape and it's yours. And they stop short. Because this team does not know how to handle success. So they have the 3 wild card games at home against the Padres in 2022. They lose the first game on Friday night. Jacob deGrom musters whatever he can give you for 6 innings. You win that game. And then on Sunday, Joe Musgrove just shuts you down. And your season ends in a flat-out dud. Number one, because that's what every other Met fan expected. So you know what stopped happening in September? Here's the wicked truth. They stopped going to the games. Because they knew that they know that this wasn't supposed to end like this. We're not supposed to win the division. We're not supposed to have anything good. We're not supposed to go through these things where you realize, like, damn, yo, we're not supposed to go through this. We're supposed to be suffering forever, man. We're supposed to suffer forever. We're not supposed to win divisions. It's all going to go bad. I'm not even going to go to the game. I don't even want to look. I remember I went to a game. Me and Rick went to a game. And I guarantee you guys, and this was in the middle of the play, they still had a division lead at this point. There were less than 15,000 people in that building. There were less than 15,000 people in the building for the entire game. And I sat there and I said, oh, they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it's exactly what happened. So when Steve Cohen goes out there and spends $500 some odd million trying to bring you players, and you stop showing up, and this is what he said at the end of his press conference. He said, I hope you guys show up to the ballpark. I hope this brings out fans. What? Bro, you just spent more money than any Met fan has seen spent in their entire lifetimes, and you hope that this brings people out to the yard? This is how we end things? Right? And I'm sitting there going, damn, yo, he spent all the money he could possibly spend. He did everything he possibly could. He put you in the right position. So 2022 ends. 2023, everybody comes in fresh, looking to make a move. What happened? Marte gets hurt. Scherzer gets hurt. Verlander's ineffective for some starts, but he's good in other starts. Right? And by the middle of 2023, right before the trade deadline, Steve Cohen says, we have a 12% chance of making the playoffs. I don't think those are very good odds. If I were me, I think we need to go in a different direction. And that's exactly what they did. Because that trade deadline is when they traded Max Scherzer to Texas and they traded Justin Verlander back to the Astros. Why is this important? Because your mercenary guys who you brought in here to help you get over the top to be your veteran leaders, they weren't around to even see your season get demolished. They're turning around to watch your season get demolished. And here's the sad truth. And I'm gonna end it like this because I think this kind of wraps everything up in one. Citi Field, where the Mets call home, it was funded by the mafia. There's an article in the New York Post. I have an excerpt here that I want you to see because this is very, very important. Also, right here, look, I want to just play this too. The similarities between the Wilpons and Steve Cohen are uncanny because Steve Cohen is so worried about building a casino, so worried about building ancillary stuff when it comes to baseball, just like the Wilpons. They were so busy doing things with Madoff, making their money other ways. The Mets felt like a secondary and tertiary business. It didn't feel like all they had, right? So it turns out Citi Field was built by the mob. The Mets connection to the mob. Here it is right here. And you sit there and you wonder, what do you mean they're connected to the mob? Every person or every business that they contacted, according to this article, they're all convicted felons. One was being questioned by the FBI. One was convicted or almost convicted of money laundering. And these are all construction companies that you reached out to help you build your ballpark. So when I tell you that it goes back to the mafia and that it feels as if everything was destined to work a certain way and be a certain way and fit in a certain mold, this is exactly what I mean. I will tell you that what did you think was going to happen? Where looks and aesthetics and cosmetics are at the forefront of everything they do, and winning is just a happy surprise that comes along with it if they can get the win. And what happened to Jorge Lopez was a byproduct of this organization not being able to get itself together, not being able to say, you know what, this brother's going through some things. This brother's dealing with some real life situations. Let's not be cold-hearted right now, like we were to Willie Randolph, like we were to Buck Showalter, like we were to Bobby Valentine. Let's not be cold-hearted. Let's put him first and his family first because he's going through something. Let's make sure somebody's with him on the road. Let's make sure he has an ally, somebody to lean on, that if it goes bad, don't worry, bro, I got you. We never got to that point. And the sad part is Jorge Lopez was never given the ability to show what he really meant or his remorse or how he really felt, because optically it didn't look good for you to keep him. You let him get railroaded by the media, and not one PR person or your whole public relations department stood silent for 24 hours. He released his own statement before the Mets media relations department did. Think about what I just said. Jorge Lopez on his Instagram released his own statement before the Mets public relations did. What? Dog. Just that alone is crazy. So when you talk about why is it like this or how does it change? It changes when you stop worrying about your perception and start worrying about your reality. Stop worrying about how you're perceived around the game and start worrying about how you're looked at or how it really is. Because I got news for you. All those Met fans who say, oh, but winning's going to buy us everything. Winning's going to buy us everything. Winning's going to buy us everything. I give you a case in point. Look at the Knicks of the early 2000s when they thought LeBron was coming to New York. Look at all these teams that they thought money was going to be the way to handle business. When you treat human beings like a piece of garbage, you get piece of garbage results. You get garbage results. The Mets have treated human beings in their own organization and beyond like pieces of garbage. And this is why you get the results you get. Right? But before we get on out of here, there's a crap ton of comments. I didn't want to read any during the show because I just wanted you guys to hear me and get, have, some dialogue. But let's go through this, man. And if you have any more comments, I'm all ears to listen to them because I feel like we cracked some codes here tonight. Ivan says, welcome to episode 15. Yes, welcome. Razor says Metsy. Lopez son has a wow, and they caught him off of that. It said last season. Their whole existence, yes. They're still trying to find out who they are with 3 exclamation points. Talk about it, Ivan. Talk about it. 86 Mets were a frat house. Gary Carter with a small handful of Met catchers that can actually catch. They literally living the high. Oh, that's accurate. 86 Mets were trying to cut lovable little guys, a blip on the radar screen. Loosey goosey guy. This feels like I'm traveling through history in a time machine as we go through their history. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. I can't believe people think highly of Pete Alonso. He barely cracks the top 10 and all-time great in the franchise's history. They hung Willie Randolph out to dry. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Shout out to everybody watching right now. Yes, thank you, guys. Thank you. They strive for the best public perception while doing shady shit, and they get used to sound familiar? All right. Bobby Valentine, Willie Randolph, Terry Collins. Winning team, put together winning teams, they got nothing. Terry Collins definitely deserved better. I agree, broski. This is a great breakdown. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Keith Hernandez tried to lead. Gunshot, pussyfooting, running scared. That's the Mets. And nobody in the front office then and now are willing to stomp their foot down and make real changes. It's just lipstick on a pig. I recall David Wright having to put one of those guys in checks when they first came up. That Kirk Newman heist reference hurt me. Yeah, that's a horrible quote. That's a great question, Razor. It's a great question. Verlander used the Mets to get his money because it wasn't clear he wasn't going to win with the Astros. That quote about teams being mercenaries and not bringing in players you want to. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank y'all, man. Appreciate the love, yo. Thank y'all. That's true. That's true. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. There you go. There it is. So with that right there, man, yo, appreciate the comments. If you know anybody that's a Met fan and you want them to rock with the show, hit them up. Let them know what we just did. We just did a thorough breakdown of the New York Mets. It's not a long show. It's a little over an hour, not even. You know what I'm saying? Until, we rocked out. We did the damn thing. So I'm Stefan Martinez. I'm saying good night for the evening. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. Let me put this back up here so you guys can see it. Follow us on all our social media platforms, Instagram and YouTube, for all the latest surrounding 27 ounce. You get injury updates, you get statistical updates, you get all that type of stuff. So follow, hit that like, hit that share button, subscribe to the YouTube right now. If you know somebody that loves baseball and that's a Met fan, this episode's for them. You know what I'm saying? I think Met fans would really avoid this show because it's too real for them. Prove me wrong, though, y'all. As Razor puts it, don't avoid it, man. Embrace it. Embrace the reality of where you are. And with that being said, as the great Martin Lawrence once said, we ain't got to go home, but we got to get the hell up out of here. Peace.